Hey, hello Anja. Let's talk about communication management plan. Do we even need it in 2021? Don't we know how to communicate in our project team? So let's discuss it in more details in this video. First of all, I want you to remember that communication is driven by proper stakeholder management. Let's think about it. You have clients, customers, and other authoritative stakeholders. Now you write down the perfect communication management plan and you hand it over to them. What would they say? We don't care. In most cases, you have to adapt to the preferred communication ways of your stakeholders, and you will adapt the whole team to work with your clients and customers, or product owners, or whoever is the top priority stakeholder for your project. That's why don't create a communication management plan and try to enforce it on everyone in your project team and all the stakeholders. Rather than doing that, try to help them embrace a better way to communicate with the project team. If anything, I would put into my communication plan only one point: how to use the one tool that the project uses. So if you have on a project management software like Jira, Azure DevOps, or any other application to manage the work of your team, you want to educate your stakeholders to use that tool. Moreover, you need to sell the benefits of using this tool rather than sending emails, instant messages, or pigeons to your team. And here's what's important. When I say that you need to keep all the communication inside that tool, I mean all the communication. It includes requirements, it includes all the designs, estimates, all the comments and discussions, and all the meeting notes. It means that even if your clients and customers don't want to get inside the tool and use it, you still communicate with them and capture the meeting notes inside the tool. But ideally, you want to make using this tool so appealing to your clients, customers, and other stakeholders so that they forget about email, instant messages, and whatever else. How do you do that? First of all, don't assume that it's easy to use it. You need to educate them. That's why I suggest that in communication management plan you have a link or even a paragraph that describes how to get in, how to use it, where you expect your clients and customers to leave their feedback, and make it as easy as possible. They don't need to know how the whole system works. They just need a way to send message to you and your team. And the only rule that I would enforce is to try to keep the communication within the deliverables, within a feature or any tangible deliverable that you create. If you have a command section, do keep it all in there. And you can take it even a step further. So rather than writing long status reports on your project, you can create a dashboard or show the clients and customers how to use the tool so that they know the current state of the project, what tasks do the team work on, and everything else right there in the tool. Alright, well, it sounds like a cool idea. I know for sure that not all projects have a project management software that allows all this communication to happen in one place. That's why our communication management plan should include some more entries here. That's why the next most important thing that you want to capture is everything related to cybersecurity and communication. One thing that I learned about cybersecurity is that you can't implement it solely by technological means. It's all about people. You need to educate people how to be secure and safe in this cyber insecure world. You need to think through which groups of team members and stakeholders have access to different parts of the project information. For example, which group has access to all the requirements and UI designs? Who needs access to databases of the project? Who needs access to the source code? And what's important, who has access and privileges to assign people to these access groups? Next, you need to outline the list of allowed communication technologies. For example, can you use Skype, or should you use Skype for business only? Can you use Zoom? Can you capture the screen recordings or screenshots in any other applications? How can you share all this information with the team? So all this should go into one simple list of allowed communication technologies. The next thing that usually comes in practice but you don't think about it much is how to share files, how to do it securely. So what tools can you use to store files and share it with other people? How do you give access to those files to people outside of your organization and so on? So here I recommend that you have a specific step-by-step instruction on how to upload, how to secure a file, and how to share this file to anyone outside of the project team and your organization. And last but not least, in this section, I would recommend that you explicitly describe how to handle accounts and passwords to those accounts. It includes accounts to everything like your email, access to project management tool, to file storage, and so on. But most importantly, if you are in software development or anything like that, you will have a bunch of test accounts to test your application and product. So somehow you need to manage those accounts as well, and distribution of those accounts among stakeholders, clients, and other team members. And believe me, it's super critical that you have these rules of cybersecurity in communication, even if they are as simple as I described them. Why? Well, because sharing some sensitive information is the biggest problem in this digital world. You can share some information from your clients, from your team, or from the product or service that you create, and there is no simple way to make this a means of leaking sensitive information. By the way, the sponsor of this video is my free resource guide called 5 Critical Areas a Great Project Manager Needs to Master. This PDF provides you access to unique content and tools that I don't share anywhere else. Things like my full guide to leadership, scope and risk management plan templates, and lots of other valuable resources. If you want to be a successful project manager, this guide is for you. The link is in the description below this video. Okay, the third point of our communication management plan applies to you only if you work with third parties, if you have some vendors who create some deliverables for your project. First of all, I want to stress this out. Any communication needs from the vendor should be stated in the contract, because just allocating a person to sit with you on a meeting and providing you the status report is a waste of resources and money for them. That's why in the contract you want to state that they must participate in some level of communication with the project team, and in your communication management plan you want to specify the expectations from those vendors on how they communicate, how frequent this communication should happen, and in what form. So in this section I would put a simple table which describes the type of communication, the frequency of communication, and expected format. For example, you expect a weekly status report by email, or you want to have a daily sync-up meeting for 30 minutes every day via Zoom, and so on. Also think about if you want to visit your vendor on their site regularly, because it's also a time that they need to allocate, and so on. So capture all this information in this section. Alright, the fourth section that I recommend is to keep the actual lists of contacts and a short description of what kind of problems this person can handle. What's the area of responsibility of this person? For sure it depends on the complexity and the size of your team, the geographical locations, and so on, but at the very minimum you want to capture the name, the title, the geographical location and time zone, preferred way of communication, and a short description of the areas of responsibilities of this person. Okay, last but not least, you may consider adding a section on how to escalate a problem on your project, the escalation process. And the funny thing here is that the best escalation process is actually to call someone on the phone, because in this digital era we don't use cell phones as much, and if someone types your number and calls you, it's really an emergency. As funny as it may sound, it's the escalation process that I have on the project right now. Alright, if you think that it's too simplistic, write me down in the comments below what you think is essential in the communication management plan. Thank you in advance. So that's how I see an efficient communication management plan in our digital era. So first of all, don't force your communication management plan to your stakeholders, and try to align them with using only one tool of the project that you have. Second, outline the cybersecurity rules and how to share and work with sensitive information. I insist that you enforce rules for the third parties. Don't assume that they will willingly communicate with you. Next, create and maintain the actual list of contacts and their zones of responsibility. And last but not least, do create an escalation process for your team. Okay, if you find this video useful, just click the like button and YouTube will show some more of my videos and other videos on project management and leadership. See you next time, bye bye.